Hello, I'm Kyle, and today we're going to be talking about the basics of tournament chess. So let's get started. I want to talk about equipment, I want to talk about etiquette, and I want to talk about the rules of chess. So the first thing with equipment is that we're going to need a board to play on, right? You need to bring your board, and you're going to need to bring a clock, which we'll talk about in a second. If everybody brings, their own board, then even if somebody else hasn't brought their board, well, you'll still have a board. Now, if you have a wooden board like this is going to be probably pretty cumbersome. So I would recommend not using something like this. I'm gonna take this and set this down and show you instead this setup here. It's just a tournament kit. You're gonna be able to use this to store your board, store your score sheet, which we'll talk about, and your clock as well. So this is very useful. And the way that this works is you're gonna have a vinyl board. You have a board like this that is flexible, right, and easily stored. So this is gonna be what you would prefer to use. And you can just roll it up like this when you're done. Right. So that's very useful. It just goes in this pocket here. And you can buy something like this online. There's a lot of places that sell it. You wanna have some pencils or some pens. Pro tip, have two of them just in case something happens to one of them. You have another one. These are what you're going to use to write down your moves along with your score sheet or your score book here. So I have this score sheet, and this one is for 50 games. You can buy ones that will allow you to put in more games, but how it works basically is you're going to have a little format here where you can write your moves. As long as you have some sort of record of the moves you're making, that's going to be helpful, because what if your opponent cheats? Even if they don't cheat, you do want to have a record of the moves that you're playing, because then you can go ahead and read through later and say, oh, okay, let me analyze my game using this, right? If you have something at home where you're setting up your games on the computer, you're uploading them into the computer, this is going to be what you use to do that. And one thing to mention with this is already getting into the rules, but you can't write anything in this other than the moves you played and the time that was on the clock when you played it. Anything else is considered cheating. So you don't want to write any notes like, if he does this, I'll do this, by the way. Don't write anything like that. Just write the moves that you're making. There was even a player a few years ago who got in trouble for writing just inspirational messages to himself, like, you can do this. He got in trouble. So you want to be careful. Well, also, I'll show you here the clock. Again, you can buy clocks all over the place. Usually if you search up chess clock or you search up game clock, these will pop up all online. And this one is just a very cheap one, actually. It's a very simple one. It has a little lever here or a seesaw that you can hit. And that's just going to, say that it's my opponent's turn. Another rule here that I'm going to sprinkle in is when you make a move with your right hand, let's say, then you come back and you hit the clock with your right hand. Don't hit it with your left hand. When the clock starts getting lower, that could save you some time and is considered cheating. So you have to use the same hand as you move the piece. So that's going to be all of your equipment that you really need. Now I want to talk about some do's and don'ts. One thing you don't want to do is listen to music or have your phone on you during a tournament. Just keep any electronics off you if you can, because that's potentially something you could be using to cheat, so you want to keep that away. You also don't want to talk during the tournament, and when you sit down to play a game, one thing you want to do is you want to shake your opponent's hand at the beginning and shake it at the end. No exceptions. This should always happen. Players have even gotten in trouble for not shaking each other's hands. So you gotta shake your opponent's hands, even if you don't like them, right? So that's also not just etiquette, but in the rules. Also, with what you wear, you want to be careful not to wear anything too casual. Depending on the tournament, you probably can get away with quite a lot. But there have been instances where players were wearing shorts and they got in trouble for wearing shorts. A few other things: when you give check, don't say check, not like in the Queen's Gambit, right? You don't want to do that. And when you resign, you just shake your opponent's hand. Just say, I resign, or okay, I give up, or something like that. Shake their hand. You don't want to take the king and slam it on the board or anything like that. And the final thing I want to talk about is a few rules. We want to make sure we observe touch move. So if we touch a piece, as soon as we touch the piece, we're moving. Unless you say adjust. Adjust, you touch it and you adjust it on the square it's on. That's fine. You know, sometimes they get knocked to the corner, you say adjust, and then you fix it. But if you don't say that and you touch the piece, you've got to move it now. So you want to be careful. I've had people pick up pieces, realize they shouldn't pick them up, and it's too late already. You have to move it now, right? Even if it's gonna lose you the game, you've got to do it. It's against the rules. And once you move a piece and you let go, you've let go of it. That's it. A good way to avoid touching the pieces too early is actually, this might seem kind of silly, but to actually just sit on your hands, or you can put them behind your back so that they're physically away from the board. That's probably another etiquette thing. I think a lot of players probably get annoyed if you're just hovering over the board. Another rules thing, when you castle with your king, you want to make sure you use your king, right? It's a king move. So the king goes to where it's going to castle, then you move the rook. You don't want to start with the rook and then the king. That's not what you want to do. You also don't want to use two hands to castle. Don't do them both at the same time. Players have gotten into trouble for that as well. Listen to what the tournament director is saying, what the arbiters are saying. Those are basically the referees in chess. You know, most of the time if you make an illegal move or something like that, you're just going to have a time penalty. Don't stress out about it too much. Just make sure when you touch a piece, you know that you're certain about where you're going. This is also just in general a good rule because you can make a bad move if you move too quickly. So that's all I have for you today. If you feel like you missed anything, feel free to go back and rewind and let it sink in more. If you want to dive deeper into chess, feel free to jump into a live lesson, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.